Prem Rugby is back, and this is a review of round 13. It dished up 5 great matchups for us. So let's take a look at who used their 6 weeks time off to good effect and who didn't. And let's take a look at the movers and shakers. The weekend kicked off under the lights at Ashton Gate with league leaders Northampton going down to Bristol. Now, Bristol were in some fine form before the campaign stopped for the 6 weeks. They were kind of throwing in tries from everywhere. Had a massive victory over Bath just beforehand, and Northampton's form had been pretty good for the whole season so far. Now, the game itself, a little bit spoilt by the rain. The skies opened just before the game, and I think it was Batley went over for quite an early try for Bristol, and they never looked back. They absolutely hammered Southampton, absolutely hammered Northampton, 52-21. And to be fair, Northampton really went at the races. They started Archie McPherson for his first game or his first start in the Prem. He obviously was coming off the back of an absolutely brilliant performance for the England under-20s against France the week before. And I think it was a step up in class for him. I think it was a little bit of a baptism of fire. And yeah, Bristol, very good. Lovely rugby. Pretty much tore Northampton apart. And Northampton pretty dismal. Lots of mistakes. They didn't look out of the fight all the way through, but, Bristol just kept stretching away from them. So great result for Bristol, carrying on that good form. Northampton are going to go and lick their wounds. And they've got a tough game their next round as well. They go at home to Saracens. At the same time on Friday evening, it was a matchup between Leicester and Gloucester for the Ed Slater Cup. And this was a great game. It really did pulsate. It kind of kept going end to end, ebbed and flowed. Really enjoyed this game. And I think from an attacking point of view, Gloucester always had the edge. And from my perspective, very much deserved their victory. They kind of scored a try in the last couple of minutes. Stephen Varney, lovely try, sort of bringing on board some of his form from Italy in the Six Nations. Scored a great try just to give them the win there. I think Leicester thought they'd fought their way back into that game and were going to just nab it, but it wasn't to be. And for me, it was a fascinating matchup between the two back rows. And I think it's probably fair to say that Gloucester got the edge there. And Zach Mercer was brilliant. He obviously isn't like the sort of standard number 8. He's a lot more athletic, just great feet. And yeah, he caused all sorts of problems for Leicester on the night. So yeah, well-deserved victory there for Gloucester. And that's 2 weeks in a row now that they've done Leicester. Obviously, the week before was down at Kingsholm in the Prem Cup final. And they'll be very pleased. They'll be wanting to play Leicester every week at this rate. And if, like me, you're glad that the club rugby is back on in England and that Prem is underway again, and you're enjoying this content, please give me a like or subscribe. It would be very much appreciated. And as ever, please do let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Did you enjoy this weekend's fixtures? And are you looking forward to the run-in? And in terms of the run-in, actually, I think one thing that Premiership Rugby has done really well is by branding these last 6 games the run-in. It actually is starting to sell the game to people. And it just seems really a nice little play on words there that might get people excited. So fair play to Premiership Rugby for trying to make it seem exciting. And in talking about exciting, we can then look at the Saturday fixtures. First one being Saracens versus Harlequins. Now, obviously, this was Saracens' big match where they took their game to Tottenham Stadium. I think it's 61,000 people there. I was actually in attendance that day as well. Just love the whole concept of these games going to the bigger stadiums. Harlequins do something similar as well. And I think they got 70 or 80,000 earlier in the season. It just really brings the game to fans who wouldn't normally go. I mean, I went with a group of 15 people, and probably I'd say at least 70% of them don't normally go to rugby. So it kind of really starts to expand the audience. And what a show that was served up by Saracens as well. I mean, it was a real tight matchup before the start. You were looking at, I think Quins were in second, Saracens were in fourth. But when that game started, Quins were nowhere. They were not at the races at all. Saracens got some really quick early dominance. Just some real great go forward from the likes of Theo Dan and Elliot Daly, and they just absolutely pummeled Quins. And I think it took Quins till about the 50th minute to really register a half decent attack. So yeah, no, fair place to Saracens. They really made the most of their time at Tottenham. And is this the springboard that will really take Saracens forward now? They've kind of been a bit inconsistent this season so far. But that performance was by far and away better than anything else they'd served up this season so far. And for Quins, I think, yeah, they're going to have a good old long, hard look at themselves. I think maybe that 6 weeks away didn't serve them very well. Obviously, they had quite a few key players out with the international sides. But yeah, they really did look to struggle. So I think they'll be looking to turn things around with their home game against Bath coming up next weekend. But yeah, Saracens fully deserved that one. And then the other Saturday game was Exeter versus Newcastle. I think it was 25-16 to Exeter. But Newcastle got off to a really strong start. They scored a try after about a minute, and they were in the lead, and fair play to say deservedly, for about 20-25 minutes until Oba and Toyimbo inexplicably tried to keep the ball in play, whacked himself into the hoardings at the side, and just left the ball stranded on the pitch for Exeter to just dot it down for a try. I think the thing I enjoyed about that game was there was a more resilient side to Newcastle. They were much more dogged, much more in the game. And yes, they went on to lose. Yes, they conceded 4 tries, but they really did put up a fight. And I do wonder whether Steve Diamond going there as a sort of director of rugby consultant has started to make a difference already. And, you know, Exeter, bonus point win. You'd have expected that. They had the 4 tries before half-time. Second half, nothing really happened. I think both sides got a penalty. But yeah, it was certainly interesting in the first half. And I think, yeah, obviously Exeter are pushing hard for playoffs. And I think, you know, Newcastle will probably just be pleased if they can win one Prem game this season. And on the evidence of Saturday, you know, I think they might have a chance. Things might be starting to turn round. So that then takes us into the final game of the weekend on the Sunday, where we had Bath versus Sale. Now, that brought back both the English and the Scottish fly halves back to club rugby. So you had Finn Russell at Bath and George Ford at Sale. Now, George Ford was a dad that week as well, so he had a lot going on. And again, a great game, really good game, real end-to-end stuff, a real battle both within the forward packs and a lot of flair through the backs. And for a long time, that game was very, very tightly contested. Although it ended up 42-24 to Bath, I think that scoreline flattered them a little bit. They really only started to pull away in the last 15 minutes. And there were a couple of points during that game where I think Sale perhaps could have kicked for points rather than going for tries and just really just kept working the scoreboard. But however, Bath, I think, worthy winners. You know, some nice interplay between the likes of Finn Russell, Lawrence, Cam Redpath as well. I thought was having a pretty good game. So yeah, now that was an entertaining game, and probably from a competition point of view, that was the game I most enjoyed this weekend. In terms of flair and style and attacking play, then both Bristol and Saracens were awesome. But yeah, as an actual competitive match, that's the game I most enjoyed. So that leaves us league tables extremely tight again. You know, I think 5 games left. I think there's something like 9 points between the top 7 sides. And I think I could actually see 8 sides being in for a realistic shout of getting into the playoffs, which just makes this really exciting. So hopefully you will enjoy the run-in as well. I think I might make a video in the next week or so predicting who I think is going to get into the top 4. Might do a little bit of forecasting, looking at the fixtures and working it all out. But yeah, love to know what you think. Who do you think is going to make it into the top 4, into the playoffs? And yeah, thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one.